Now, one of the things you've heard me mention a few times is service and charity. We all do that in different ways. It could be simply as a grandparent helping out in the kindergartens or that kind of thing. I'm involved in about 126 programs in about 16 countries around the world, so kind of stretched out there a little bit. But what we're doing, teaching diabetes prevention and organic farming, getting people really to go vegan because it's the healthiest, and that we're working in 6 countries in Africa, and that is closer to the natural way, so it's actually pretty easy to go that way for people. But service helps you open your heart. Charity is good too. Service in particular, you connect, you make the heart connection, and connection is very, very important for longevity. So we know that people involved in service and charity live longer. Now, this is kind of a funny thing, but I'm going to say be cautiously optimistic. It isn't good to be optimistic in an unrealistic way because it results in failures. Failures really aren't good. So optimism is good, but it has to be linked at some level to reality. In other words, when I talk to help people change their diet, I say, well, don't go to 100% live food. You're just learning to get off meat or fish or whatever. Just go one step at a time. Give up fish. Give up. And why do I say fish first? I used to say something different. Because fish are, because of the contamination in the oceans and because of radiation, Fukushima, everywhere, fish are actually more toxic than chicken or cattle or beef. Used to be the other way around. People think it's a healthy food. At this point, we know in diabetes, the fat from fish destroys the beta cells of the pancreas. For diabetics, just stay away from fish. Research in Europe shows that people who have fish 2 to 3 times a week have more diabetes. So I can go on, but we got fat from fish, but we got all the toxins that the fish are exposed to. So it's no longer a really healthy food. Okay, so back to the point. Okay, we'll get off fish first, then go to chicken, then go to beef. But the point I'm making, one step at a time that you can be successful with. Do you see the point I'm making? Oh, no, I'm going to go 100% and then you fail the next day. No, that doesn't build your ability here. So we want to be able to be successful at each step. That's what I call thoughtful optimism. And of course, we don't want to do too many things in our lives at once. And that has to do, again, with understanding limitations. Now, limitation is not a bad thing. Boundaries are not a bad thing. But they have to be healthy boundaries. They have to be realistic limitations. Don't jump off a cliff and think you're going to fly. Okay? Even though we should be able to fly, right? Well, it doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? So understand realistic limitations so that you can succeed. It is more important to succeed than set boundaries that are very beautiful, very high, but you don't succeed at. Success psychologically is important, and that takes me to a really important point. So in 1979, Helen Langer was a researcher. She got 100 people and who were out of high school for 30 years. They measured everybody's physiological markers, and then she created for 10 days, 30 years younger, with the music they had in high school, the kind of things they did in high school, and for 10 days, people lived as if they were high schoolers. at the end of those 10 days, their aging markers were 7 years younger. What's it tell us? Your mind is affecting your physiology. Your mind is affecting aging or not. That was like the best experiment. I mean, my goodness. And then the research kind of afterthought was, oh, a month or so after they went back to their normal life, they were back at the same parameters. So what's the point? We want to think healthily. We want to think young. We want to think, keep extremely realistic, positive view of yourself, because that changes your physiology, literally. That's just a dramatic example. 10 days of thinking 30 years younger, and you actually test physiologically 7 years younger? I mean, think about that. That was an incredible study. But it says what researchers found again and again. Your mind creates not just your outer reality, you've heard that, but literally your physiological reality. That's why meditating helps create a younger physiology by 15 years. So your attitude about yourself, you can think, well, at whatever age, because the truth is when you keep this going, you don't really get old. You don't necessarily age, okay? It's more mental. And, there's toxins, you have to compensate for that. But you're thinking young, you're thinking flexible, you're thinking strong, you're thinking, good memory, you're thinking clarity, and you are creating literally a physiology and a neurology that is going to keep you in a younger spectrum all the way around. And that research is there. The Helen Langer is like the most interesting, dramatic research. So just keep it in your mind, that how you think is how you are. Probably the single most important anti-aging, I'm going to say, enduring radiant health message. How you think is how you are. So, okay. So keep it simple, but think at the optimum age you want to be. That's really the message that I'm talking about. So I'm actually 77 years old in terms of chronology, but I'm, up to 400 or going towards 600 push-ups again. I did that when I was 60, and doing different things. Obviously flexible. That's not an accident. I'm thinking that way. I'm not thinking what most people think 77, obviously. I'm thinking, I'd actually will say, more like 30s. And it works. I'm not doing it for that reason. I'm doing it because that's the way I think about things, right? But it's good to do it for that reason. Once you get how you think is how you are. How you think is not just in your mind, but it literally affects your physiology. Now, this is kind of funny, right? But conscientious people really minimize their risks. Now, that doesn't mean you live in a straitjacket. No. I'd say my parents didn't like me playing football. I was the smallest guy on the field. I was also in the National Football Hall of Fame, captain of undefeated Amherst College team. For me, taking the risk of playing football was worth it. I wouldn't ski. I wouldn't take any risk anywhere else. because I wanted to be healthy for football. But the point is, that was a risk for me that was worth taking. Actually, never thought about it as a risk, but you know how parents are. They're thinking that way. My mother used to come to the football games just to see that I got up afterwards. You know? So, but the point I'm making is it's not really helpful to take unnecessarily risk. And now that goes to the food we eat. Oh, it's okay, eat whatever you want. You can change it with your mind. No, you want to go organic. You want to do that. Yeah, just for example, organic food, there's lots and lots of studies. And they range from 350% more nutrient and so forth. But in all the studies, we get the average down 25% more nutrients, but up to 80% more phytonutrients and antioxidants. And antioxidants are really key in terms of longevity because all the toxins we face in the world are creating free radicals, from 5G, which makes a huge amount of free radicals, to just daily life that we face creates free radicals. So we want to go organic. Organic will give us the optimum, by far, the optimum free radical protection. You know, somewhere, depending on the antioxidant, from 20 to 70% more, particularly the polyphenols. So it's like, wow, okay? So we go organic because we get more nutrient, we get less pesticides and herbicides by at least fourfold, and we get significantly less cadmium. That's what the research shows. So it's worth it, making that effort. So to me, not eating organic is to live dangerously. You're going to have more cancer from pesticides and herbicides and so forth, and more diabetes. We know that type 2 diabetes is accelerated by pesticides and herbicides. So it goes on and on, but the point I'm making is we can choose not to live, we can minimize the danger by how we eat. And that's the point, and that's the fastidiousness. Like also, it's better to eat a larger meal at lunch and very little at dinner. We do know that calorie restriction, without going into all the details, can increase 40% calorie restriction, can increase our anti-aging genes, anti-diabetes genes, anti-cancer genes, antioxidant genes by up to 400%. So for myself, I don't have very much for breakfast. I have a little goji berries. We'll get the herbs in a minute. And I have lunch, and I really don't eat dinner. I'll have some juice or some fluid to keep hydrated. So that's how I do it. The less you eat, the longer you live. Luigi Coronado pointed that out in the 1400s. Okay, he had pretty much almost ate himself to death at age 52, but he lived to be 102 when he changed his diet. So that when Sebastian the Essene came from African and taught him what to do. So those are just some examples of what I would consider living dangerously. Okay. So in their studies, and we've covered it, but I'm going to say it again, good hygiene, wash, clean, moving your bowels, depending on your type, 1 to 3 times a day. Kaphas tend to be once a day. Pittas could be 3 times a day. Taking care of your skin is good. Making sure you're going organic and minimize your exposure to pesticides and herbicides. It's basically connected to levels of longevity in different ways.